Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. What happens when life brings you to your knees? When one day you wake up and you feel like your body is no longer your ally. It's betrayed you. Can Ashtanga Yoga, can the practice bring you back to life or give you a whole new way of relating to being? This is at the heart of today's conversation with our guest, David Nee. David was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at 41 years old. And 17 years later, at the age of 58, he walked into my yoga studio, Ashtanga Yoga Victoria in British Columbia, and began to practice yoga for the first time. That decision changed everything. It changed his health, his weight, his relationship with his body, and his connection to himself, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And as many of you know, I've walked my own healing journey with an autoimmune illness. And these paths ask so much of us. They really require us to tap into our own sense of patience and inner resilience, and also the quality of surrender. And yoga, as David points out in his book, helps to cultivate these qualities: patience, resilience, and surrender. And even though these paths are often not the ones we would have chosen for ourselves, they also bring with them many moments of unexpected beauty, surprises, creativity, and a connection to community. David writes, "Not knowing what causes MS and no cure available makes life a trip through the unknown. It's so unpredictable and different for everyone. Getting up in the morning is always an unknown quantity. And in some cases, maybe it's that these challenges, these health challenges or personal challenges, highlight the condition that we're actually all in, that is easy for us to forget about when things are going well or easy." And so I'm really excited to share with you this conversation with David Nee and his beautiful book called The Next Asana, Ashtanga Yoga Through Multiple Sclerosis Eyes. He's captured his journey in this powerful new book. And woven through this book are poems. It's funny, it's intimate, it's vulnerable, and it's very courageous as he shares what it's like to live with a diagnosis and an autoimmune condition that is literally eating away at the neurological connections through his body. You'll hear today him read from his book the poem Harvest Moon, a nod to the great Canadian folk singer Neil Young, and a reminder of the light and the love that guides us through the seasons of challenge and change. And so if you find that maybe you're in your own season of challenge or change right now, I hope that you find this conversation inspiring and that you're feeling nourished by knowing how valuable the practice of Ashtanga Yoga can be, even if it is only with you for a time or a season, And maybe, like David, you can't practice the way you used to anymore. But the practice itself was a bridge and created a deeper connection to the spiritual realm, to himself. And that connection in and of itself brought healing and renewal in ways that he never expected. Hi, I am here with Russell Case, my co-host today.
Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast.
And
I'm here with my co-host, Russell Case.
no, we're supposed to not be boring and say the same thing all the time.
You have a brand, you want to maintain brand consistency.
It's so boring to say the same thing every time.
Mr. Nee?
Yes.
Is that how you pronounce your last name? Mr.
Nee. We're here with David Nee.
In Swedish would be Mr. Schnee.
Just like the one on your leg. So,
It's just like a... Where does a name like that come from? Your family was specialists in knees?
no, my dad said it's Scottish. He said that it used to be McNee, but
Oh, McNee.
and then when they came down from Scotland, they changed it to knee to get rid of the Scottish heritage.
Yeah.
That's
Prejudice.
That's my dad's story, but my dad has lots of stories.
Well, we are here to talk about your beautiful book. And I love at the back, it says, I never been sure where I'm going, but I'm sure I've had a good life so far,
Yes,
which is beautiful.
it's true.
And it's called the Next Asana. And we met many years ago in Victoria at our yoga school, Ashtanga Yoga Victoria. And that's where you started yoga, I think, for the very first time,
Yeah,
right?
2013, I believe. Yes.
Why would you leave the east to go west?
But actually, after we moved to Cornwall, we lived in Cornwall for 4 years, my parents and I, and my 3 brothers. And then we moved to Montreal. And I've spent most of my developing years in Montreal in the 70s. And we lived there until I hit about 35. And then 35, I moved to Winnipeg, lived in Winnipeg for, I think it was 7 years. But the company I was working for transferred me to Montreal to go manage the distribution center with truckers and stuff. And I stayed there for 2 years in Montreal, then moved back to Winnipeg, another 7 years. And then from Winnipeg, moved to Victoria.
You must be like a Canadiens fan.
Yeah.
Massive.
Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
I'm a Habs fan from the get-go. Always.
But now you're retired, right?
Retire is kind of a misnomer. I went on long-term disability. So it was a forced retirement, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you went out west immediately following your forced retirement that we're probably going to talk about it in depth today.
Yeah, I went out west. My kids were all old enough that my wife and I could take off. And it's funny because we got this idea that we could move out west and retire there. And we went to this conference in Winnipeg, and it said that there was this big development coming on in central BC in Osoyoos. And I used to watch the weather forecast all the time from Winnipeg. I'm like, Winnipeg having a range from plus 30 to minus 30. And Osoyoos, it said it was always nice and warm. It was at the top of the desert. And so we went to Osoyoos to look at Osoyoos, and this is no comment on Osoyoos, but we didn't like it. Yeah. So we went back to Vancouver where we were staying, and a friend said that you got to go have tea at the Empress Hotel in Victoria.
Oh, you should have tea.
Yeah, so
high tea.
They do high tea.
High tea, yeah.
But being British or an ex-British person, I
Expat.
said, okay, sure, let's try it out. It cost $120 for a bunch of little tiny sandwiches and a cup of tea. But anyways...
Oh, you made out Bandit.
I never went. The whole time I lived in Victoria, I never went once to high tea.
It's probably double that now.
Oh my God.
And we sat in the harbor on a bench, not far from your studio.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
And we were sitting there, and there was people talking, I think, Swedish, and another couple talking German. And then a plane came over Store Street. I don't know if you remember Store Street, just the one that crosses the harbor. A plane came right over top of us and turned right over our head, and then came right down into the harbor. And at the same time, the coho was coming in.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
There's all this activity going on in the harbor, and
Mhm.
we both turned to each other and looked and said, "This is the place." So,
Oh, that's
Aw.
nice.
huh?
Yeah,
All
it's
that
so
energy.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to live there. It's such an amazing place to
Yeah.
live.
And I gather from your book is that what happened is that you were out there, out east, and you developed multiple sclerosis.
I was diagnosed in Winnipeg, and I didn't really tell anybody that I had it other than my wife and a couple of friends. I kept it to myself. I didn't tell my kids. I didn't tell anybody else. Didn't tell my parents. But 4 years later, I went down to visit my parents, who just happened to live in Mobile, Alabama. And
You're joking.
no,
That's right. I spent all my summers
Really?
there because my grandparents moved to Mobile, Alabama. On Gulf Shores, just outside of
yeah, I've been to
Pensacola.
Gulf Shores many times. Yeah. And I've been to
Oh.
Pensacola. Yeah, my parents transferred out of Montreal a long time before I moved to Winnipeg, and they lived in Mobile. So,
Yeah.
well, I used to travel there, bring the kids down all the time to visit with my parents. They were grandparents. And one time I had to travel with my medication, which requires refrigeration. So when I got to the house, I told them I had to put this medicine in the fridge, and then I had to tell my parents that I had MS, which
Yeah.
my mom didn't like that.
No, I
Yeah.
can't imagine.
Can you tell us a little bit about multiple sclerosis, MS? What were some of the signs that you noticed, and then what did the doctors tell you about it?
What I first noticed is I used to work out on this machine that was sort of like you pedal and pull at the same time. So it was a back and forth things. And about 45 minutes into that workout, my left big toe started to go numb. Initially, I thought I was just cutting off the circulation or something. And then after that, I started to notice a tingling at the bottom of my spine. So I just offhand, when I was talking to my doctor, I mentioned it to him, and he said maybe we should get it checked out. But then things started getting worse. My whole foot started to go numb. My legs started to get tingly. My eyesight was weird. It just like my left eye was further back than my right eye. So my doctor sent me to get tested, and he originally thought I had a brain tumor. So he sent me to a neurologist. A neurologist sent me for what's called an evoked potentials test, where they wire up your head with all these electrodes and they stick them all over your body. And they test how long it takes responses to get to your brain. So they'll give you a visual stimulation, and they'll time it, how long it takes to get to your brain. And they'll give you physical sensations and time that too. And then they do an MRI. So with those two tests, that determined that I had multiple sclerosis. But during the process, I lost the ability to see color.
Oh, wow.
But I eventually got it back, but I lost color, and I used to get my foot went absolutely completely stone cold numb. I couldn't even feel it. But that also came back.
Did it come back on its own, or did it come back after, like, you started practicing yoga?
No, it came back on its own before I started practicing yoga, but I had I was initially diagnosed with relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. So that causes some of the symptoms to rear its head, and then it goes away. It relapses and remits. But right now I've moved into a second phase, which is secondary progressive. So it doesn't remit anymore. It just keeps getting worse.
And is it connected to autoimmune disorder?
It is an autoimmune disorder, yes. My immune system attacks the myelin that surrounds the nerves. So it's like electrical tape or whatever. So you take that off, and it's short.
Wow.
So, like, the nervous system can't communicate all the way down to the big toe, which is why it goes down.
And the same with other symptoms, whatever symptoms they are. Like, there's so many things that happen that it always makes you wonder.
That's interesting, because when I had sciatica, they were telling me, my clinician, that the myelin was probably eroded on my sciatic nerve. And that was part of what was going on, is that I needed time for that nerve sheath to grow back. And I was having some of those same symptoms, the tingling, and my toe was numb, and I would get pain in the toe if I, urinated, for example.
Yeah.
Weird stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's done a lot of weird stuff, and it makes you always think that something else is going on, that there's some other illness or whatever. It's turned me into a hypochondriac almost.
Yeah, I believe it.
I think autoimmune disorders are a bit like that because the symptoms are so random and they come and they go. Sometimes I think it's often just you just don't feel good, but like you don't necessarily feel totally bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like with your Hashimoto's, your autoimmune.
Yeah, or you feel tired, but you don't know if you're really tired or like if you're just
fatigue.
not feeling
fatigue
great.
is a major symptom for sure.
Which is interesting because I find your story so cool because you started practicing Ashtanga Yoga, and that's not exactly the most relaxing kind of yoga to take up, David.
No, it isn't. And that I didn't know what kind of yoga I was taking up when I took it. Like,
walk us through that then. So you're out in BC. You've got symptoms that come and go, and why does this thought occur to you? I should take a yoga class. And then how did you end up with this one?
My neurologist recommended that I take up yoga.
Really?
Yes, when I moved there's a whole thing about neurologists and me, and neurologists are not really, or weren't easy people to talk to. They didn't have much of a bedside manner, or they weren't.
They're not known to be so.
No, they're not. And so, like, my experiences with neurologists in Winnipeg, I wrote about it in the book a little bit at the beginning, are different from when I moved to Victoria. Because when I moved to Victoria, this neurologist, she checked me out physically. She did a physical exam. She did some blood work on me, and she found out that I was pre-diabetic. She suggested that I do something physical, change my diet. But doing something physical for somebody with MS is difficult because you're always feeling tired. And it was trying to find an exercise that was maintainable was difficult. So she suggested I take yoga. I started doing some research on the web, and there's a whole bunch of yoga spaces in Victoria. But I had found your website, Harmony, and on the website it said that this yoga would fit any constitution. So that line jumped at me because I really don't have a constitution. I'm not a very religious person at all. And I was worried about I was getting into a cult. And so
Right.
We are also worried about that.
I'm not joking. I was worried about that. And first time I heard the invocation, that sort of intensified that fear. But
I remember you came in on, I think it was a Groupon that we did that was like a very, I don't know, it was very low cost. And it was for an intro to Ashtanga class. I think we called it Step by Step.
You did, yes.
I remember so clearly your first class and your second class and your third class. And it was actually a really nice approach for, I think it's my favorite approach because it's basically teaching Mysore style to a smaller group of practitioners. And so you can teach everybody the sequence, yes, but also really help them and adapt. And I hope it wasn't too intimidating.
Well, I did. Okay, so my very first class, Mysore was going on in front of me. So
yeah, we did it in the same room.
There was a Mysore class going on in the front, I would say the front 75% of the room, and then the back 25% was us people learning how to do Ashtanga. And I was surprised by the sound of the room, the breathing. I was shocked when I saw two pregnant ladies doing Asana, the headstand. And there was this hugely fit man with long ponytail doing Parvatasana, the hands behind the back and
Parshvatanasana.
Yeah. This was all going on in front of me while I'm trying to learn this. So it was a lot of shock going on at the same time.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I just loved the whole vibe of the room. So it was something that I knew was serious, and that was important to me. I just didn't want to go to some artsy-fartsy, cats and dogs on my shoulder kind of thing while I'm trying to learn something, I wanted the real deal, and that's why it attracted me so much, because I could tell right off the bat that this was real.
Yeah. What I found really interesting about you and your wife is she also came, I remember, to those first classes.
Yeah.
And she was quite skilled, I'll say. She was, quite able-bodied. And I mean, you were like struggling, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And you kept going and you loved it. And it really seemed like it resonated with you at a soul level. And she was sort of like, yeah, it's not for me.
My wife and I are dead opposites. And I mean it in every single facet of everything that we do and everything that we are. I guess opposites attract, but she runs. So she started running marathons when she turned 50. So like she's run about,
Wow.
I think she's run about 8 or 9 marathons since she turned 50. She's more into that. And she moves around a lot more, and she's always doing something, always moving around, where I'm reading or doing something that's more introverted, and she's doing something that's a lot more extroverted. And
How did the two of you meet?
it's a funny story. Well, it's not a funny story. It's a strange story. But I was managing a warehouse in Montreal, and this person that worked for me came up to me and said, I know somebody who needs a job. She has 3 kids, and she's a single mom, and she has moved from Toronto to Montreal, and she has no job, and she needs a job.
Wow.
She said, okay, give me her phone number. I phoned her, talked for about 5 minutes on the phone. I say, okay, start tomorrow. That was it. And that's how basically we met.
That's amazing.
But that's not how it's longer than that, but essentially that's what happened. We didn't really get together then. It was years later that happened.
That's amazing.
But I don't want to take this on too much of a tangent, but I do want to
going on a bit of a tangent.
I've got a follow-up question because people are fascinating when you dig in. So how old were the kids? And how many boys and girls were they when you all got together and then you became like a stepdad?
I hate that term. I never use it.
Same.
I was married. I really detest that word. I was married at the time to Monique, and years later we separated when we got divorced. So I have 3 kids, and Donna has 3 kids. So at some point in time, years later, we got together, and we ended up forming our family with 3 of my kids and 3 of her kids.
Amazing.
That's a Brady Bunch situation. But how old were they?
My kids were in the range of 11 down to 5, I think. And her kids are a little older. I would say maybe 14, 15 down to 10.
So I'm going to get advice wherever I can get it. I need constant help. I have a 14-year-old son who Harmony says is not my natural child. That's fine. But what advice do you have? I've raised the boy since he was 5. Do you have any tips?
Be patient. I'm going to use the word stepkids, but my stepkids did everything in their power to get rid of me. And I mean, one of them was brutal.
Oh.
But I would say now, she's the one that I would say loves me the most out of all of them, the one that gave me all. And it's hard to say that one kid loves you more than another, but this one kid did everything entirely possible to get rid of me. And I'm surprised I survived it.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
But patience, I would have to say patience is the most important quality I could use to survive. And survival was not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you guys made it through, which is amazing.
What I would like most is for my child to stand up from whatever activity they're doing and then to look back at what they've left behind. That's the one thing I want him to learn before he leaves my house.
What do you mean?
If he's going to stand up from the dining room table, look around, take your plate with you. If you're going to go to the sink, you leave your plate there, maybe wash that.
You're literally talking about cleaning up and chores on the podcast
absolutely I am. If you're going to stand up from wherever you are, look around and take that thing that you've left there and take it with you. That's really all I want in life.
That's pretty simple. It's like, I just want my kids to be happy.
Oh, you want that?
Yeah.
No,
Thank you.
that's
Thank you,
that's
David.
lower on the totem.
Oh,
Yeah.
number one, my
Mm.
kids to be happy, but
Number
they
one.
have to be kind as well.
Mm.
And kindness is very important to me, and they're kind, and I like that.
That's
Beautiful.
nice.
Yeah, kindness and happiness
Mm.
over cleanliness.
It is a kindness when people care for others' space. How long have you all been together now, you and your wife?
We've been married 23 years.
Wow. So the girls, they're all in their 30s now.
Actually, I've got kids in their 40s. I've
Wow.
got 4 grandkids too. So
Oh, fantastic. Oh.
2 of them are on the back of the book.
Yeah, I see
Oh,
that.
I see them. Yeah.
And it says you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at 41 years old.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's
then
young.
you came into our studio for the first time at 58 years
Yeah.
old.
I was 180 pounds. After I guess by the time I'd gotten 3/4 of the way through primary, I was down to 150 pounds. I lowered my blood sugar and
Wow.
was flexible and strong.
How tall are you?
Somewhere between 5'10" and 5'11".
Okay, a little taller than me then. Okay. Yeah, wow.
So you lost 32 pounds.
Mm.
You regulated your blood sugar.
Yeah.
What did you notice about the MS?
I was surprised I could do what I was doing. MS also causes cognitive issues. So memory is a big issue.
Yeah.
When I first started yoga, I couldn't remember more than 3 digits. Like I'd go to the grocery store and, you go to the bulk section and you'd have to write the number down on the little tag there. And I go to the grocery store, and by the time I picked up the tag and went back to the thing where you write it, I'd forgotten the number. One of the things that yoga did for me was improve my memory amazingly and my cognitive abilities. Like another thing about MS, it gives you brain fog. So your ability in your head, you're not clear and your thinking is all over the place. And I noticed after about a year with doing yoga that a lot of that stuff cleared up. After about a year of going yoga, I could go and pick up a 5-digit bun, walk through the whole grocery store, get to the cashier, and still remember that 5-digit number, which is, I will definitely say, is due to taking yoga.
Wow.
The whole, I guess, the breathing process and the calming down, the vagus nerve, all that stuff, and how it improved, slowed everything down, and cleared up a lot of stuff in my head that I thought was impossible to do, but it did.
It's amazing. And I think it's important that we talk a little bit about how we modified the practice, because that was really important. And I think sometimes when we say like the Ashtanga Yoga practice, people are thinking like, oh, primary series, full vinyasa, like between postures. And like it seems quite intense and active. But can you tell us and just talk to us about some of the ways that you, especially when you started, how we modified the practice for you and how you've also maintained and modified it over the years?
Jeff, after I started this whole process, he printed out the sheet with all the asanas on. He said, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do this. And then the standing asanas, I didn't originally, when I was first taught them, I didn't learn all of them. I wasn't taught all the standing asanas because it was evident to my teachers and to me, I didn't have the strength to stand up that long. I didn't. I couldn't stand up and do all those postures. Like there was a weakness in my legs. I didn't have the strength to do it. And some of the asanas were left out. And the sitting asanas, I did no vinyasas. So I would just do the postures, whatever I was taught. And I can actually remember having a conversation, Harmony, with you. You might not remember this. You walked by me once when I was practicing and you said something like, in about a year, you'll be able to do this. And it was just out of the blue that you said it. And I thought to myself, in a year, holy smokes, I have to wait that long? Yeah, I was like, that was a lesson right there. That is what yoga is all about, is that there is no time frame to this. And I was enjoying what I was doing as I was going along. I was learning way more stuff than just a bunch of postures. So it was kind of an illuminating comment that you made as you walked by, but it sort of made me feel uncomfortable at the time. It's going to take me that long to get this way.
It's a short time, a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny, our perception of time, I think we go into a yoga class or like whenever we start something new, we think, well, I want to be able to do this all in 6 months or a month or 3 weeks,
Yes.
or even a year. Like it's a relatively short time, actually, isn't it?
I've been at it, 12 years? I'm still learning.
Yeah. But I think it's really crucial to like emphasize you had all of these positive results happening in your body. And that was without vinyasas. And like we left out a lot of different seated postures, that your body wasn't ready for at that time, but you were still moving through the asanas in the sequence. We left out some standing postures and just doing what you could with your body without, I think, and this was also a very important part for us working with you as your teachers at the time, that you weren't stressing your nervous system more, because that's quite detrimental to someone with an autoimmune condition or with MS, right?
That's for sure. And I guess it's learning the breathing correctly. Like I said in the book, it was 10 months before I figured out that breathing had anything to do with yoga at all. But it was, I would say 10 months in, I started to figure out about the breathing, but it was years later that the breath really became part of my understanding of yoga, like the whole breath, about hearing it and feeling it coming in and going out, and that whole calming down and that whole process of just being. And like I got into a whole meditative state years on into this whole process. That was the shocking part of this whole process, was that meditative state that I enjoyed so much.
Yeah, beautiful. And so it's really amazing, your journey, to me, because you went on to study with Tim Miller and do his teacher training and become a teacher even yourself. Tell us about that journey.
The teaching part was interesting because when I went to Tim Miller's class, it was funny. I actually asked for, you remember, I asked for your advice about where to go. I wanted to teach. I wanted to teach people with MS. I wanted to teach anybody this amazing thing that I've discovered, this practice. So like I asked Rachel, who was my teacher at the time, if I could assist her. And she was kind enough to say yes. I don't understand why, because my practice is the most unrefined looking thing you've ever seen. So like whenever you see a teacher, their practice looks perfect. And mine was as far from perfect as you could ever be. But I remember asking you about where I should go for teacher training, and you did recommend a couple of people, but one of them was Tim, and I went to Tim's teacher training. And the funny thing is, when I walked in the doors, that very first session, I walked right up to Tim, introduced myself. I said, I am David Nee. I just like to introduce myself. He said, oh, you don't look so bad, but you got MS.
He knew you,
Yeah, that's part of the problem. Nobody does know that. You can walk around. It's what they call a silent disease because nobody notices it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to Tim Miller's class, which was one of the most interesting, and it ranks up there as the best 2 weeks I've ever spent learning yoga, like learning that whole process. It was a more spiritual kind of endeavor that I'd never sort of experienced before. It was actually a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but as I went along, I met some of the teachers and talked to the teachers and the other people that were there. And it's interesting because I have all the emails from all the students who were there. Last week, I came up with this idea that I was going to send them my book. I said, oh, this is a good way to sell my book. I'll just send out an email to them saying, my book got a book. You might want to buy it. And I got so many comments back about me and my practice and how it affected them and their practice, because they learned from me that they didn't have to have a perfect practice like me. I didn't have a perfect practice, but everybody was trying to get this perfect looking practice, which I definitely don't have.
Yeah. But you have an effective practice.
Oh, yes,
so
for sure.
The most important part.
Yeah. I'm very proud of how far I got into this. I'm very proud of the fact that I got a third of the way through second series.
It is really fascinating, your story, because there's this wonderful dynamic at play, even in this conversation, where you've taken yourself, an introverted, bookish Scot, hiding away from people, and then you've introduced an intervention because some of the intrinsic patterns had maybe created the conditions for dis-ease. And so, well, I'm going to introduce Ashtanga Yoga to this and see if I can sort some of this out. And here you are now online promoting your book. That's the most extroverted thing you could possibly do.
It's an extroverted introvert. So
yeah,
writing is easy because I'm doing it alone.
Oh, you could be away.
I'm doing it alone.
Yeah,
it's all in my head. So like putting it out there like is something else. So like the extroverted part is putting it out there, which I did with the book. But yeah, I consider myself an introvert.
It does sound like at a certain point in your journey, say before you met Tim, you had decided this is really working for me. I want to find other people who maybe are struggling with MS or other discomforts, and you wanted to try and help them as well. And so this is a part of that. At what point did you feel like you needed to go out and really start finding people and helping them?
As far as MS goes, I've always been involved in helping out the MS community. I was a board member for many years in Manitoba and in BC, Yukon. I was what they call a friendly visitor, so I would visit people who had MS in a hospital or in long care homes. I was a peer support person, so if somebody was newly diagnosed, I was on call to help them get through some of that stuff. I've always been involved in helping the MS community. But when I found yoga, it made such a huge difference on how I was living my life. I said, I got to try and get this out there to the MS community. And it wasn't just yoga. Like I've had conversations with people about yoga, and I believe that Ashtanga is different than other forms of yoga because it's so disciplined. It's difficult, but it's attainable and accessible. So like, that's my own journey. I understood that, learned it, and I was absorbed by it to the point where I got to tell people about this. I got to try and help them. And that's how I got into that in my mindset that I could teach it, but I wasn't very good at teaching because it's difficult to teach Ashtanga because it's so steeped in tradition. I didn't go to India like Harmony, and I'm assuming you go to India too and practice. And I've never done that.
Yeah.
So like it was difficult for me to say that I taught it. I assisted people. I never.
In your defense, sir, I would say that I can't overemphasize enough how undisciplined the teacher training is in India. It is chaos. And so all of the intrinsic work of just doing the practice was the most disciplined part about it. And so what we know about Ashtanga Yoga is just like little quips, aphorisms. Somebody would say something to you once, so you should breathe harder. And change your whole life because of just one little thing that someone mentions to you while he's walking by you. Just like Harmony did with you, walking by you. Yeah, so I wouldn't have any kind of self-consciousness about the rigor of your teacher training just because you didn't go to India.
I'm okay with it, but I mean, I would have liked to have gone there. I would have been possible 7 years ago for me to go. It's not possible for me to go now because I no longer desire to do that. I desired to do that about 7 years ago. It was part of what was in me, and I felt that I had to get an authentic infusion, if you might say, of the culture of just going there and being taught by whoever was the boss at the time.
Yeah. How are you enjoying your practice these days?
I still do it, but it's trimmed down considerably. My practice is about 20-20-20. It's 20 minutes standing, 20 minutes sitting, and 20 minutes pranayama. That's on average.
Wow.
Beautiful. I think that's really lovely.
And the pranayama is now a major piece of it for you.
Yeah, it was something that was taught to me a long time before you guys left Victoria. It was taught to me at the last week there before I left. And I maintained it for about a year and a half, and then it dropped off because I ran out of time at the end of practice. But then it started picking up again, and I got more into it. I actually took one of the things about when I went to Carlsbad to learn with Tim. He had pranayama practice at 6:00 in the morning before 7:00 practice. And I went to that, and his pranayama practice is, whoa, this is way different than what I learned. It's totally different.
I've done it.
Yeah. And
I've done it with him, and it was just like Patabi Joyce. It was exactly like Patabi Joyce. And it was full power, but not at all what Harmony taught.
No, not at all what I learned at all. It was very intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a little too much for the nervous system at times. Yeah. But now you're doing nice, slow, regulated breathing for your pranayama. Have you noticed anyone else with multiple sclerosis coming into the yoga realm because of your connection or conversations?
I also have a blog, and the blog connects me with the world, and I've had people contact me. I had the person in Spain contact me and sent me a rather long email about her process and her going through this, and it was quite revealing. And so I have had that kind of an impact where I've been talking about my process, and she read about it, and she explained me about hers. And I have a friend, actually my neurologist. I sent you the manuscript, Harmy, before the book was published. I gave the manuscript to my neurologist before the book was published because I wanted to make sure that what I said about you was okay. Yeah. And my neurologist read the book, and she said, this is going to be good. She said, this is something I would recommend to my patients to read. So the book has been another way for me to get out there that MS is survivable. You can do it. It's difficult, but you keep at it. Like it took me 8 years to do Shirsasana. 8 years before I could do it. But I did it. And
but look at you go.
There was no timetable, and that's what I liked about the whole process, which is also antithetical to my work. I used to be a project manager. Everything's on a deadline.
Yeah, we got to get it done.
Yeah. You described the act of falling and headstand as being quite profound. And it reminded me once, my students were terrified of doing headstand and falling over. And so I would fall for them. I would look, it's no big deal. You just fall right over. And I make this big thumping sound, and it didn't help at all.
Yeah. I think I scared off a lot of people in practice when I was doing that, because the first time I fell, I almost broke my fingers because my fingers were all interlocked behind my head.
Oh no!
And then I fell backwards, and my fingers all got scrunched in. I thought I broke them, but fortunately I didn't. I fell a lot of times, and then you guys don't normally teach headstand in front of a wall. You teach it away from the wall. So eventually I learned to practice in front of a wall, so that backwards fall didn't happen, because when you're upside down, and I can't feel anything basically from the waist up, my legs, I can feel them, but you can't feel the sensation that you're falling until it's too late.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
yeah.
So I fell a lot of times. And then the last time I fell, I hurt my back. So I gave up doing it. I gave up doing it. Oh,
you ever used the wall?
I used the wall from that on. Yeah.
Good.
I remember when Sharat told us, just use the wall, and the hush went through the room. It was like, oh my goodness. Did you really just say that we could use the wall? And we had been so orthodox and zealous about never use the wall up until that moment, which is, what was it, 2010, 2011?
Maybe.
I couldn't believe he said it out loud.
Yeah, I was taught not to do it at the wall. I was taught that I might hurt myself by doing it up against the wall.
Oh, the exact
Yeah.
opposite. Yeah, exactly the
Yeah.
opposite is true.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Oh,
Well,
man.
your book is such a beautiful personal story, and there's so much. I love your poetry in it. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Can you tell
yeah,
us about
so
the
heartfelt.
dragonfly motif that's on the cover?
The dragonfly story goes back, and a lot of my journey through yoga started off with Jeff and you, Harmony. But when you guys left
Yeah.
Victoria, I was left to either staying where it was, where somebody else bought it, or to start our own studio. So I followed Rachel to her studio where you guys used to teach originally, which is at the
Shambhala.
yes. And
Yeah.
I started to get more of a quiet practice when I went there. Jeff wasn't telling jokes and stuff like whatever he was doing, or like it became a lot more introverted or quiet practice at that place. And I sort of grew into that quiet space in that shallow or that space.
Mhm.
So the dragonfly goes back to paintings that Rachel did that she had in your shala, where she did a whole series on dragonflies, and the whole shala was covered with all these dragonflies and like huge, massive dragonflies that she painted. And then years later, when I started to think about the book, I started writing the book and I couldn't figure out how to outline it and how to form it and what it was going to be about. And it was going to be about transformation because I transformed from the person I was to the person I am. And that's not too revolutionary, but the dragonfly represents a lot of things. It represents transformation, which is what happened to me. It represents love and love of practice and the love of the people that taught it to me. It all sort of came to a head, and I said, okay, on the cover's got to be a dragonfly.
Wow.
And because that's what yoga represented to me, was a transformation from the person I was to the person I am.
Beautiful. I took one look at it and I thought, oh, that reminds me of Rachel's dragonflies.
That's what it's originally gave me the idea. And so I started looking up what dragonflies meant because I didn't really know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if dragonflies know what they mean.
I don't know. I originally thought when I saw my first dragonfly that I thought they were intelligent.
I think they are intelligent.
Didn't realize this when I first looked at it, but if you take a look at the cover, the dragonfly is in the stand-up position of sun salutations. If you look at Army up in the air.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He's doing Akam.
Doing Akam.
Can you tell us about these little Moon Day insertions? There's all these like beautiful little
strawberry moon.
Yeah, Moon Day insertions, and they're dated as well.
That's amazing.
They're dated because they happened, and when they happened, certain other celestial events were happening at that time. I wrote them for those days, and I wrote them probably a couple of weeks before the date. And it started on my blog, because on my blog, I started talking about the practice itself and how, as Ashtanga practitioners, we don't practice on new and full moons. So I wrote a poem at the beginning of the year about wolf moon. And I just wrote it and said in there that we take rest on this day and what else is going on celestially. Because sometimes I dated them specifically because sometimes there was some other celestial event going on. So I wanted to be specific about the date because I wouldn't go on again.
Right.
So that's why there's specific dates attached to them. I didn't realize I was going to write one for every moon.
For every moon.
I wrote one and then I said, holy smoke, there's 12 full moons in this year. And there's actually 12 new moons this year. So I wrote 24 poems, 12 for the new moons and 12 for the full moons. But I didn't include the new moon ones in the book.
That's so amazing because when Harmony and I were falling in love, I was writing full moon poems like Sturgeon Moon or Buck Full Moon. And I would send her the poem is like, oh, I'm still here. I'm still in love with you over here. And I wonder if you would do us the honor, if you have a favorite full moon poem, if you would read us one.
I will.
Did you find that to be a surprising result from your yoga practice, that you started to pay attention to the cycle of the moons?
I did start paying attention to it for sure. Okay, my favorite poem is Harvest Full Moon.
Harvest full moon.
Harvest full moon, it's a ray of light. Farmers use it to work late at night. It's harvest time, they reap what they sow. They work underneath this moon's bright glow. Neil Young does sing that tune. It goes like this, on this harvest moon. I'd love to dance with the one I love. This song's perfect under what is above. On a warm late summer's eve underneath its glow, wouldn't it be awesome for us all to know? To dance, to love is all we really need. This romantic mindset, I think you believe. I've gone on a tangent. I love that song. It embodies to me of a love so long. Feel it, be it, take the big chance. Just let it in. You bet it's romance. I'll get back on track. As I'm sure you know, a breather's required. It's not just for show. Love is a song that we all know best. Sing it out loud and enjoy a good rest.
Thank you very
It's
much.
so good.
Mr. Nate.
So good. It's all about love at the end of the day, isn't
Definitely.
it?
Before we go, do you have anything else that you'd like to share with us about your journey with Ashtanga Yoga and MS? Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with?
It made a big difference in my life. And one of the things that we didn't mention is Ashtanga showed me that there was a future. The future is difficult to understand when you're looking down the barrel of MS and you're just not going to get better. You're going to get worse. And that's what this disease presents to you. But Ashtanga showed me something that I could get good at. And it showed me that there was a future in improving in something. Even though it was slow, it showed me that I was actually able to do something that was beneficial to myself, and it improved me. I'm a positive-oriented person, but it gave me a more positive view of life, the fact that I was improving.
That's incredible. It really sounds like it instilled hope at a cellular level because you could feel it and you could see it and you could recognize it in your body, and that translated then into your mind, into your beliefs, into your whole being.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, isn't that what the practice is really for?
It
right?
is, definitely. It for sure. Like the whole process is amazing and was very surprising to me about how it changed me inside.
Well, your story is an inspiration, and I think it's not just going to be inspiring to listeners who might be struggling, but I think it's really inspiring to teachers too. And I know it's inspiring to me because as a teacher, that's all you really can dream and hope is that students really feel the magic of the practice for themselves, and really that it gives them that hope, or it gives them the experience of transformation. And so you're my top student, David. Gold stars all around.
Yeah, it was fun to learn. I'm telling you, it's like awesome. One of my favorite things about Ashtanga is I practice it everywhere I go. Anywhere, and that's one of the things that I love the most about the practice is that whenever I travel, wherever I go, I practice, and it's mine. It's my practice. Like it belongs to me. It doesn't belong to anybody else.
I'd just like to add to that. When I was teaching at Stanford University, I taught right next to the Stanford Gymnastics department. And that pretty amazing group of Olympians that are in that Stanford Gymnastics program, the men are working themselves to the Olympics because that's the right age group, 18 to 20, 22. The women are all retired from their Olympic journey, and they're reaping the rewards. They're going to college on a full scholarship because they went to the Olympics for gymnastics. Yeah. And then you have the teachers are all 30-year-old ex-Olympians, and they're incredibly jaded about gymnastics, and none of them do it. They only teach. They're very happy to have jobs and great jobs teaching gymnastics at Stanford. And I've asked them, why don't you do gymnastics anymore? And it's like, you're 30 years old. And it's like, well, because I'm not going to get back to that level. Why bother? They were at such a high level that now the idea of doing it at a student level, at a basic level, beginning level, is unthinkable. And it's like, I don't even want to bother. But what you present to us is, yeah, I'm 70 years old, I have MS, and I love my practice, and I'm learning. I'm getting better at it. And that beginner's mind, that's the inspiration.
Well, it's because I am still learning. And that's the thing about Ashtanga is that it's not just a bunch of asanas. It's like you're learning about yourself. You're learning about, like, my practice now is nowhere near what it used to be. But I used to get to a posture in asana and I think, I can't do this anymore. And I used to get angry at myself. Well, not angry, but I used to say to myself, you got to do this. You got to do every one of these postures. And I realized this was dumb. Like, why? Like, the asanas are not absolutely required. And it's just, you're on the mat. I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. I'm progressing in a different way. It doesn't have to be physical. It's mental. It's spiritual. It's what it is. And that's one of the things I'm still learning about, is learning to enjoy what I'm doing, even though it's not perfect, even though it never was perfect, but even though
never was.
No.
Oh, I'm hearing also like some deep listening to what you need each day is really important too.
Yeah. I've got 6 kids. I've got 4 grandkids. I'm still married.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
right? You got lots of things going on.
Life is good. And that's the only way to look at it, is that you look at the positive things, don't look at the negative things.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. And I love that the practice has really enriched your life and allowed you to enjoy those things to the fullest, or at least on a pathway to the fullest for a long period of time.
Tell us how people can find your book.
You can get it at the moment at Amazon across the globe. It's available everywhere. It's supposed to be available at Chapters in Canada shortly, Barnes & Noble shortly, but it's basically available worldwide. Like, there's a whole bunch of list of booksellers around the world that I've never heard of, like BAM and stuff like that. BAM is an American company, so like and Walmart, and like it's available everywhere shortly.
Amazing.
Produced by
Telwell's a Victoria company, but the project manager was from the Philippines, and the guy that did the interior design was from another company. The person that did the illustrations lives in the Ukraine and got bombed halfway through working on some of the illustrations, which was...
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's been like a sort of an international process of putting the book together.
Amazing. Where can people read your blog? What's your blog?
That's msay.ca.
Okay, ms.ay.ca.
Yeah, multiple sclerosis Ashtanga Yoga.ca.
Well, I hope that many people recommend it as a resource if they have students who are struggling, and then go and read and learn, because I think you also talk about what you found has worked really well for you, and how to integrate the practice into life more holistically.
Yes, for sure. I hope so too.
Thank you so much, David. It was so wonderful reconnecting with you again.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much.
What a gift. This conversation with David was just so beautiful. And to hear the way that yoga opened up the doorway to creativity and devotion, and how it has transformed his experience of living with multiple sclerosis, was really, really beautiful. His story is such a reminder that even in the most difficult conditions, there's always room for love, healing, and possibility. He writes in his book that I found yoga was not only physically, mentally, and spiritually beneficial, but it allowed me to dream, to believe in the possibilities. And so, if you're finding yourself wondering if this practice is right for you, or what would be the benefit of continuing, just tune in to yourself and recognize how this practice might be opening you up to these possibilities. And if you've been touched by David's words, I encourage you to pick up his book, The Next Asana, and let his reflections and his story continue to nourish you and accompany you on your own path of healing and practice. You'll find the link in the show notes. And just as a reminder, whether you're navigating your own health struggle, autoimmune condition, or just feeling out of touch, not motivated, uninspired, moving through grief, or simply maybe you're seeking a deeper connection with yourself. Let this story just remind you that it doesn't have to be anything big. It can be something simple and small. It can be sitting and breathing, practicing a little pranayama, just tuning into your heart and taking a moment to connect within. It could be one Surya Namaskara, and that might be enough to ignite that connection, that deeper connection to yourself, and a little passion, shift the way that you're feeling within. So until next time, may you keep practicing, keep dancing, keep loving under the light of the full harvest moon, and continue breathing in the mystery of it all. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.